Hey everybody, welcome back to Bobo Foot Gaming, and here we are with the last day of the 5-day efficiency guide for Conquests 10 through 12. By now we should all know the data discs we're looking for, and most of us will likely have our strategy online, but just in case, and there's still a few we're looking for, we are trying to prioritize caustic emissions, thermal exhaust, amplify agony, volatile accelerator, ability exhaust, and booming voice or perseverance. We're going to be approaching day 5 slightly differently to how we've started days 2, 3 and 4, in that we're not going to be doing any fights on the Sector 1 boss node. Instead, we're just going to progress purely through Sector 5. So we're going to do Sector 5's node 1 to 5 and picking up the appropriate data discs and scavenger nodes as required before we fight the mini-boss. Once we've beaten the mini-boss, we're then going to progress through nodes 11 through to 21, picking up the data discs and scavenger nodes as appropriate along the way. Once we finish node 21, we aren't going to go straight into the boss. That's because we're going to have spent the core of our energy already, and we're going to need to take a little pause until the evening to allow us to accumulate about 60 more energy, which should take 12 hours. At that point, we're going to do the boss node. We're going to pick up the last data disk we're going to have access to, and then we will go back to Sector 1 to do 2 fights on the General Kenobi boss with a bounty hunter team. The teams I'm going to use for day 5, especially in Sector 5, are quite straightforward. I'm going to do 9 fights, yes 9, with Maul, Canderous, Wat Tambor, the Armourer and Jango Fett. This will bring Jango down to 0 stamina and the rest of the team down to 10 stamina. Honestly, based on how the last Conquest went, which I experienced on multiple accounts, this team is more than capable of going down to 0 stamina. So if you had 1 more stamina on Jango, you could definitely do another fight with this team and taking them down to effectively 0 stamina, no problems, as long as you have that data disc strategy online. Just the combination between Maul and Wat allowing you to go first, you will usually kill 4 enemies or 5 enemies before they've taken a single turn. In fact, before anyone's even gained turn meter. I'm then going to do 5 fights with Lord Vader and the 4 Imperial Remnants. I am expecting to drop some efficiency balance here. I will expect to get some 1 or 2 stars, but if you have the data disc strategy online, it is entirely plausible that as long as Lord Vader takes a turn and starts with his AoE Daze ability, that's his second special, you will inflict enough damage over times and the debuffs in general that the enemy team, when they take a turn, they will simply die. I've seen it from the last Conquest where I just Vader AoE'd and they just poof, 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 all on their turn. They just exploded. So they didn't actually do anything. So you can get 3 stars, but I would expect that somewhere along the way I'm going to drop a few fights here and there. Then I'm going to do 3 fights with Jedi Master Luke, Grand Master Yoda, Jedi Knight Luke, Shaak Ti and Hodor. Depending on the node, I may interchange the leadership between Jedi Master Luke and Jedi Knight Luke, but that's going to bring them to 70% stamina. I'm then going to do 3 fights with Jedi Master Kenobi, Commander Ahsoka Tano, General Kenobi, R2-D2 and Padme Amidala. JMK and GK will still be down stamina from using them 6 times on day 4, so they'll now be down to 58% stamina, but the rest of the team will still be at 70% after the 3 fights are finished. For the mini-boss, I'm going to do my 6th fight with the Lord Vader Remnant team. Now the idea here is that while this is saying I'm bringing them down to 40%, ideally this is the first fight I'm going to do with this team, with the 9 previous fights probably being done by Maul or a combination of Maul and the 2 Jedi teams. This way Vader will definitely go first in this fight. He will get that AoE going, and hopefully that's going to completely decimate this mini-boss. While this doesn't work for the keeper 2 of the bounty hunters alive, I think it's Fennec and one other for this node, that's fine because I can come back to that at another stage, and I'm still progressing the mini-boss feats as I'm doing this with no bounty hunters. For the boss, I'm going to do a Beskar Mandalorian armor. Wow, I said that completely badly. I'm going to do a Mandalorian Beskar armor lead with Queel, IG, Enfys Nest, and Bo-Katan. And I'll look at using some boosters here. Maybe I'll look at using a speed booster and a health booster, or maybe a frenzy booster, something like that, just to make this a bit easier. Also, with the data dish strategy and how good it is, it's completely possible that we just remove Queel and IG here and use Han Chewie, as there is some potential for looping and instantly deleting the enemy team with a number of amplified agonies, as Han will hit twice and Chewbacca will hit, which gives you 3 damage ticks for the Mandalorian's leadership. With Amplify Agony, you then actually also inflict additional damage on inflicting debuffs, so you can actually infinitely loop turn meter with this team. It's worth considering, and it sort of depends how many of the Amplified Agonies you have, but I'm putting this down as a benchmark in case we don't get that 3 or 4 Amplify Agonies. And then straightforward team for the GK boss in the evening. I'm just going to use Bosk, Fennec, Zam, Boba and Dengar twice, and that should bring them down to, I think, 70%, but it may be 80%. It's somewhere there or thereabouts. The energy breakdown for Sector 4 goes like this. I would have carried forward 4 energy from day, I've put here day 2. I wonder if I've missed that in the previous slides as well. From day 4, I'll have an energy accumulation of 120, 350 crystal refreshes for a total of 484 energy, of which I'll be spending 480. Now this is the important part of really tying up how this efficiency start with these team breakdowns and how we're going back and progressing certain feats and certain boss nodes at certain times is going to really pay dividends. So after 5 days, I should have completed every feat in Sector 1 except for the 50 clone kills, which I'll be somewhere between 60 and 20 kills, so a third or so of the way through. In Sector 2, I will have done 5 of the Night Sister battles. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to want to do all 14, but it's put me in a position where if I want to put the other 9 fights into this, I can, and I won't be too troubled. I should be 15 of 20 on the Armor Shred feat, so that means that I can wrap that up in 2 or 3 more fights. I should have completed 20 wins without losing a unit, and I should have completed the mini-boss with Aura, Bosk and Dengar surviving, and winning the battle with Mace surviving. That does still mean that I need to do the win the boss fights without using any Jedi, Sith or unaligned Force users. And I should have done at least 40 of the stealths in Sector 2, but it's entirely plausible that with the General Grievous team we're using there, we could also have this stealth feat knocked off completely. When we look at Sector 3, I should have completed the stagger feat. I should be over 50% of the way through the Rebel Fighters feat, and I'll be at 6 of 14 for the Bad Batch. Now that puts me in a good position there, as it's 8 more fights to complete, but also allows me to not be too pressured into completing that if it's one that I would prefer to skip. I should also be at 30 of the 40 defense ups. I would have completed the mini-boss feat for Cad and Fennec surviving, but not the feat for using no bounty hunters, and I'll complete the, hopefully, RNG permitting, complete the boss fight with Darth Vader surviving. Again, we'll have to go back here to do this with no Jedi, Sith or unaligned Force users. In Sector 4, I'll be halfway through the Empire kills, so that's potentially more based on what fights I see. So I'm going to have to go back here to do 5, maybe 3, but probably 5 fights to finish off that feat. I will be at 20 or more of the potency downs, which is I need to get 40. Now that's a nice easy feat, as I can then, once stamina's refreshed, I can pop in here with a team that's completely designed around feeding Grandmaster Yoda a lot of basics, and then he can just wrap that feat up in 1 or 2 more fights. I would have won with 9 light side teams during my run in Sector 5, so I've still got to come back here and do 5 more fights with light side teams, but I can also tie that into the potency down feat if I really want to, and that will parallel off quite nicely. I should have easily done the 200 crits, but if I don't, that should also come naturally between the 3 feats above. I would have completed the Boba Dengar survive the mini-boss, but I'll have to do the Bounty Hunter feat, the no Bounty Hunter feat, and very RNG dependent, I should complete the boss with Gamorrean Guard surviving, but if not, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that one. I'm quite happy to skip that feat if time becomes a constraint. It's very minimal, it's an easy one to skip, but I will come back to this boss and beat it with no Jedi, Sith or unaligned Force users. For Sector 5, with that Maul team, I should be at 45 of 50 kills with Mandalorian units. Entirely plausible that I get a good run on nodes and that feat is just finished. I would have done 6 of the 14 fights with the Imperial Remnants, and hopefully I'll be somewhere in the region of 50 stuns. Now you may wonder where I'm getting a lot of the stuns from, but you'll notice that I have a Jedi Knight Luke team, which is a minimum of 5 stuns every time he gets to take at least 1 game action, and also the Jedi Master Kenobi team I set up had R2-D2, plus multiple people that can make R2-D2 attack, and his basic attempts to inflict stun, I think it's 80% of the time. So we should really crank through this number quite easily. Also, the 2 Jedi teams both have mechanics for giving tenacity up, whether it's Grandmaster Yoda or whether it's Jedi Master Kenobi, so we should easily complete the tenacity up feat. I'm going to do the mini-boss with no bounty hunters. Entirely plausible that I skip the bounty hunter surviving feat, as it could be quite tricky in this sector. And hopefully I'll double dip on the Gideon boss and be able to get both of those feats and 3-star with the team I talked about. Now the important part here is the global feat progression. I should be at 8 wins with Boba Fennec and 12 wins with Boba Han. Now this is an important number because we're also at 20 wins with bounty hunters. So we need to do 20 more bounty hunter fights. 8 of which need to be with Boba Fennec. So that leaves 12 bounty hunter fights where we don't need to use Boba Fennec. Which also ties up with needing... Sorry, said that wrong. We need 12 fights with Boba Fennec, leaving 8 fights with bounty hunters that don't need Boba. But that ties into the parity of also needing 8 fights with Boba Han. So we can sort of run these at a rough parallel. We aren't really wasting any fights. So I quite like how that ties up. We're going to have the 500 kills done easy. And this is the crux one, the one that's going to vary massively for you. But somewhere around a third to halfway through the Boba Jango kills. And that should put us at about 430 points of feats already acquired after day 5. And that means that we need approximately, again this is all based on maximum efficiency, not losing fights, etc., 91 fights to maximum rewards. Now that's 1820 energy. It's quite a lot. We're still going to have to refresh, but for me it's not about how much you refresh too much. This conquest is likely going to cost you 1100 to 1300 crystals. That's just the way it works out, which when you think about what you're getting is still quite cheap. It's more about that you've made such solid progression through a number of feats, completing many feats, and many more are halfway done or only need a few to tie up, etc., that you're not going to have that stress. Everyone in the last time was stressed out. Oh, am I going to get this done? Oh, am I going to have issues getting the bounty hunter wins done? Things like that. This strategy for me is that I'm going to look at this and go, I've got 9 days left. I need to do 20 bounty hunter fights. I've got to do 2 bounty hunter fights a day. Fantastic. No stress. There's no stress that I need to go, oh, I have to do 3 in the morning. I have to do 3 in the evening. Otherwise I'm so behind, and then I've got to worry about the stamina, etc., etc. You'll get through the first 5 days. You'll put in solid effort. Well, I'll put in solid effort. I'll work methodically. I'll pick good fights for the teams I want to use. And I'll be in a position where the next 9 days are going to be, I can play this as I want, when I want, do maybe a refresh a day, do 2 refreshes one day, not do any the next day. And I can just coast my way to that red box and those great Boba shells. So I think this is really what's important about it, is getting so far through it that you just have a nice, easy, relaxed 9 days after this. So this concludes my 5-day efficiency project for Conquest, and I'm really looking forward to putting this into action when Conquest comes back. I believe it'll be next week, and that'll tie up with when they want Grand Arena Championships to start, so they're not running in tandem over the Christmas period. If you liked these videos, if you found them helpful, please give them a like, give them a comment, subscribe to the channel. Feel free to share them with your friends, your guilds and your arena shards, and feel free to come and have a chat about them, how they could be tailored for different rosters or what teams you would like to see talked about in subsequent Conquest videos, you can join my Discord server, and the link is in the description of this video. Thanks very much for tuning in, and now that I've got nothing to talk about on Conquest for the next 2 months, I guess I'll start making some videos on things like the new Bobo or maybe the new Marquee Tunes or Starkiller when he's announced. Thanks very much, and looking forward to hearing from you soon. Have a good day. Bye.